Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the man, the van, and the bird. Chilling in the car with my girl Birdie. And I wanted to share with you kind of how I got here on this van life journey, how I even decided van life was the move for me. It's been a lifelong journey, and I thought maybe some people would want to know how I decided, why I decided to go van life. It all really started as a small child. My parents introduced me to the outdoors at a very early age. I can remember, at 5 years old, going to Yosemite for the first time, and absolutely knowing that my place was in nature. I would marvel at the climbers walking around in the Yosemite Village with their racks on their hips of all their equipment, and watching them up on the rock, and then hiking through Yosemite. And that first time, the mist trail that particular year was just raging with water. Coming down the steps of the mist trail was just like a creek. My mom was freaking out, and my dad had my hand, and I was having the time of my life. It was amazing. And at the same time, I always had a deep love for the explorers that I would see and read about in National Geographic. My parents had and still have a subscription to National Geographic since the 60s. And we had several bookcases in our home as a kid, and it had all of the National Geographics they had ever had. And I would just pour through those and find articles about explorers and marvel at the men and women who would just push the boundaries, push themselves, and who were getting to see these new places. And while I'm not necessarily that guy, I think I maybe could have been if I had chosen a path along those lines maybe earlier in life. I mean, we'll see what happens, right? Maybe I will do some things like that. But what it instilled in me was a sense of exploration and seeing new things in nature in particular. Like, I enjoy traveling. I enjoy going to new cities. There's a few spots around the world that are on my list, but that doesn't have the appeal for me that going and seeing things in the natural world do. That is much more appealing to me. And so, throughout my life, so as my childhood goes on, I'm doing these things. I'm in love with the mountains, and we were at Yosemite and or a beach house at the beach every summer at minimum, a week each, and it was amazing. And in high school, I started to seriously consider going to live in the mountains somewhere, and doing subsistence living, living off the land, going back to being, I guess, a form of hunter-gatherer. That really appealed to me, and there's still an appeal there. I'm not going to go do that, but that had a very strong appeal. And then I was a basketball player as a youth, and so basketball took me to Hawaii for a year at age 20, and then at age 21, I found myself in Washington State, which was absolutely incredible, and I fell in love with the forests and all of the water there. At 24, I moved back to the Southern California area. And by 32, I was back in Washington again, up in Bellingham. And then my family and I moved back to California a few years later. And then I was back in Washington a few years after that. And then Montana a few years ago I moved to. And now I'm back in Southern California. And so I find myself a bit of a nomad anyway, right? I think I've left LA and returned 6 or 7 times as an adult. And that's quite a lot, I feel like. And even when I am out somewhere new, like when I was in Montana, like I was traveling around the state quite a bit, traveling to LA quite a bit, being on the move. I like being on the move. And the times when I've been living in like a city, like especially in Southern California, I'd go up to Mammoth for a week or even a weekend, and leaving would be terribly painful. That's Birdie snoring. I don't know if you picked up on that. But leaving would be terribly painful for me and incredibly difficult. And I really just never wanted to come back to the city at all. I wanted to stay in the forest and explore and play. And so my entire life, basically, I've been dreaming of living in nature, and I'm now in the position where I can kind of pursue that a little bit more, and I love it. I love getting the opportunity to drive somewhere new, see new things, meet new people, have new adventures, new places to hike, new places to pow surf, new places to snowboard, all of those things, all things I love doing. And so, how I got to the point of actually making the commitment and going for it, I was in Montana, and last spring I was laid off from an executive position I held in the cannabis industry. I've been in the cannabis industry full-time since 2005, and there's been a lot. It's been a rocky road. There's been a lot of hills and a lot of valleys, and this last valley really made me take a step back and examine my life and examine my career. And I hadn't been happy in cannabis for a long time, several years, and I still constantly dream of being in the forest. And so I thought about, what can I do? Could I buy a place somewhere relatively remote and figure out working remotely? But that's not going to solve my itch to see new things and kind of explore it. And then I started taking a serious look at full-time van life. And as I said in a former video, having a van equipped to go do these types of adventures had been something I've really wanted for 13 years. And so I began watching YouTube videos by people like Famagogo, Nikki Delventhal, LivingTheVanLife, and Our Way to Rome. And I'm not ashamed to say that the 6 people that make up those 4 channels are really my inspiration for living van life, and also for being here on YouTube, for taking this leap of putting myself on video. I'm nowhere near the level of those folks, but they've inspired me, and they make it feel like I or you or whoever can get to that level if you put in the work and you do the things that you want to do. And hopefully I get to meet them and thank them in person someday. I'm looking forward to the possibility of running into them out there at some point. And so, in watching these videos, I was inspired, and I quickly realized that this was a way that I could achieve my dream of nature and exploration and snow sliding. And so, once I realized that this gave me that ability to kind of pursue the things I've been wanting to pursue my whole life, I just decided to do it. I'm a person who's not afraid of taking a chance, trying something new, taking risks. I'm not very risk averse. And so I made that decision relatively quickly, and it's been incredible how the loved ones in my life have gotten right on board and said things like, I love this for you, or this fits you so well. And so, that felt really good, and I decided to pull the trigger and do it. I think that's it for this video. So in the meantime, I hope you're out there getting it. We are. Take care.